Hi, welcome to the BariNation podcast, where we support the bariatric community with humor, humility, and honesty. I'm April.
And I'm Jason.
No Miss Natalie today, but we have the pleasure of welcoming a brand new guest, one of our newest BariNation experts to the podcast, Monique Coleman.
Hi.
We are so excited to have this opportunity to talk with you today. We want to know how we can make room in our lives for movement. If you are watching this podcast in January of 2024, our current theme in the community is really decluttering. How do we make room in our lives to live the pillars? And we know from personal experience, sometimes finding the space in our life for movement is challenging. Sometimes those challenges are real, sometimes they are made up in our minds. So today we are very excited to learn from you, Monique, one of our movement experts, about how we can do exactly that in the community. But before we kind of dive in, will you take a moment and introduce yourself to any of our listeners, friends, followers, watchers that have never met you before?
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm super excited, so excited. My name is Monique, and I am the founder of Thick Chicks Fitness, so body positive fitness community. And it's funny because I never thought bariatric life was going to be me, right? I started my business over 300 pounds, and I was just like, thick chicks, this is where it's at. It wasn't until my doctor said, hey, if you don't do something, then you are going to have to be on diabetes medicine for the rest of your life. And both of my grandmothers, unfortunately, one had her legs amputated to diabetes, and the other one just slid a slow and just, harmful, hurtful death due to diabetes. And I knew that I wanted to be the generational curse breaker. A lot of people don't think that diabetes can kill you, but yes, it can. There's so many things associated with that. And being a single mom, I just knew like that wasn't going to be my journey, right? I couldn't let that be my jam. So my sister-in-law was the one who actually came to me one day in the kitchen and said, what are we going to do? Both of us were overweight, and we were just like, we got to be here for our kids. Like we got to do something. And she said, I really think that this bariatric journey is going to be us. I'm not going to lie with you. At first, I was like, nah, nope, not me. You're not going to cut me open. I'm not going to do that because I hear people do it and it's a quick fix, right? Fast forward a year later, and bariatric surgery saved my life. Like hands down, like it saved my life. It's been one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. And I've been through some hard things. I had a child that passed away at 6 months, and, a mother that had a stroke. And on top of all these things, I want to say that bariatric surgery, as a result, that was one of the things that really turned my life around and helped me regain my life. So I'm thankful to bariatric surgery because it opened up a whole new door that I just never thought I'd be able to ever gain my life back. So that's where we are.
That's a big journey from where you started to where you are now. And I think what is so inspiring about your story is that despite some maybe big obstacles that you had in your life, you faced them really kind of head on. And you just said, no, this is important, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to figure out the way. I'm going to create the path if it doesn't exist, or I'm going to partner with people to get it done. And you did it, and you continue to do it.
Yeah, it's a journey, right? I wish people would understand that like bariatric surgery is not a quick fix. I mean, you guys know, right? It's hard. It's hard, but I'm so thankful. And you're right. Like first of all, obesity is something that people don't think that is like an epidemic. And it's like, it's a disease, right? Obesity is a disease. And if you don't look at it as such, you need to figure out, how am I going to cure this disease? And bariatric surgery for me was the cure, and it gave me back my life. And I just hope and I pray that people, they come and they see things like BariNation, and they see like what's happening here, to say, you know what, this is something that's going to help me cure that disease.
Yes.
So,
yep. Could not have said it better myself. Awesome. All right, friends. Well, if you're ready, I say let's dive in.
Go.
All right. So Monique, before we kind of kick off, I guess the conversation, let's all reflect a little bit. What was movement like in our lives before bariatric surgery? Right? Like what did we think about it? Jason, why don't you start, then Monique, and then I'll share.
So before I had surgery, I was my highest weight was 470 pounds, and breathing was a workout for me. If I got up anywhere I got up from was a workout, like walking, like any type of general movement whatsoever. Getting dressed in the morning was a workout. I viewed everything as hard to do. So it wasn't until it took a lot to get me to even be able to move around when I was at 470 pounds. Like I've told the story many times about how, just the smallest things were just almost impossible for me to do. My mobility had gotten so bad that I really was having a hard time. Like my wife was cutting my toenails. My wife was helping me put my compression socks on. My wife was helping me get my shoes on. And it was a lot of help. And it was one of those things that I had to really deep down dig and kind of have that conversation with myself. Like, she's doing this, but this is not what she signed up for. I'm 44 years old and she's taking care of me like I'm 90.
Yeah.
And this is not like, nobody deserves to have another, 20, 30 years of this, of taking care of somebody like this at that level.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point, and that is sometimes our size and our shape absolutely makes exercise, right? Or like type of intentional movements truly impossible, because just like what you said, like living life, just trying to get through the day was movement, like full stop. Okay. Monique, what about you?
Yeah, so ironically, movement for me before bariatric surgery, I was really active, right? I ran marathons. Like I at 260, I ran my first half marathon. Don't ask me how I did it, because I promise you, I'm like, well, how did that happen? Right. But it hurt, right? I was always in pain. And now looking back on the videos of me doing fitness, I'm almost like saddened a little bit, because I remember what my knees felt like. I remember like I could go 20 minutes of maybe doing, a 1 hour stint of fitness and having to stop and like pass the baton to somebody else, or being so out of breath after one fitness class that I would be like, oh my God, I'm not going to make it, or like have to sit in the car after a workout. Because at the end of the day, sometimes when you're a fitness instructor, you always want to make sure your best light is shined out, for everybody else. So you want to go 150 so that your class can at least give you 80, right? And I remember what that 150 did. It was hurtful and it was painful. And I would be like, okay, I'm teaching fitness Tuesdays and Thursdays. Wednesday, I'm not going to move at all because I can't, right? Because I went hard in. Or Thursday, oh my God, I'm probably not going to be okay until Sunday because I did 2 hard days. So it was hard. I did it, but it was really painful.
I resonate with that. Oh, sorry, go for it, Jason.
I was just going to say, it's funny when Monique, you brought up the fact that you can look at those pictures and think right back to it. It's funny how people who haven't been through our journey can look at a picture and they may have a memory or feel something about that time frame, but we look at those completely different.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think about the time we were having or how much fun we had or this funny thing that happened. We immediately can go back to and run an analysis on our entire body and say, that was the day my ankle hurt really bad because I did this the day before. My knees felt like this. My back felt like this. That was the time like I was almost in tears because my back was cramping up. And I have plenty of pictures where I can legitimately do that same thing. And people who haven't been on the journeys that we've been on through this, being bigger people and being able to see the lighter side of life like we are now, it really is something that only we can understand. And it's it's cool to now be able to look back at pictures post-op and be able to see what the other people, we see it through the lens that other people have always been able to see it through, but we never lose sight of how we saw the pre-op stuff. Like to me, I feel like I'm fortunate enough to have seen both sides. That's the way I look at it. A lot of people don't, are saddened by the fact that they ever got as big as they got. And I wasn't a person who struggled with weight my entire life. So I had a period of time where I was, pretty, I'm not going to say fit because I didn't do anything remotely healthy, but I just happened to be on the smaller side of it. Like when I got married in 2001, I weighed like 235 pounds. I'm 6'4", so I was right in line with about where I should have been. And then I got sick in 07 and really started packing weight on and had a bunch of health problems. So I've been able to kind of see all sides of it. So for me, I mean, I am one of the people that actually view it as being fortunate enough to have seen both sides.
Yeah.
Wow.
My movement experience was very similar to you, Monique. I was always very active, very athletic. I was a 2 or 3 sport athlete in junior high and high school. I started gaining my weight really after high school throughout college, but I was always taking tennis classes. I always signed up for some type of PE class, even in college. And same thing, I walked the Seattle Marathon. Can't tell you how I did it, but I did that, right? But I couldn't walk for a week afterwards, but very, very active. And for the last kind of 5 years, I think leading up to my bariatric surgery, maybe even longer, maybe even 10, I became very invested in hot yoga, and I was going 5-6 days a week. But the thing that I remember about hot yoga is, even though my size at the time was large, so I was 326 pounds when I had surgery, and I was doing hot yoga then. My fitness was high, and my ability to do kind of those hard physical things really, I think, only grew. But it was interesting because I always felt myself less than, because my body physically prevented me from getting into all of the poses because I just couldn't do it, right? Like my body was in the way of my body. But usually about once a month, somebody would come up to me before or after class and congratulate me on going to yoga. And I was like, why do I need congratulations? It's because of my size. They were trying to make me feel good about, like, well, good for you getting out there despite being, this huge woman, and you're still going to move. And I'd been doing it for like 5 years, and it was just like, so I always felt like even though I was out there doing the movement, I was being judged by others because of my size, even though I wasn't thinking that necessarily in my own brain. So I absolutely get that, the kind of that push pull between, well, I was active, but my size and stage, it still prevented me from doing that.
Oh yeah, people, when I used to tell people like I'm a runner, or they would see me with my running gear on, they'd be like, are you a run walker, or are you just right? Are you just a runner to say that you're, oh, good for you, good job, because you're a runner? And I'd be like, but I don't understand, like, even if I walked, right? And when I tell you my running wasn't, I remember this one time I did a 5K, and this older lady, I mean, she dusted me, right? I mean, she super dusted me so bad that she turned around and like ran backwards and was like, come on, girl, you need to hurry. And I was like, but I'm trying. But I told myself, you know what, at the end of the day, like, I'm out here, I'm out here and I'm doing it, and I'm proud of me because I'm doing it, So dude, I totally get that.
Yep. And I was really thankful for my level of fitness going into surgery. So if you're listening and you're watching, and you're pre-op or you're newly post-op, and you were very active before surgery, you actually went into that procedure with the best possible preparation, because you are strong, your muscles are strong, your bones are strong, like you are used to physically working. So you have set yourself up for success. And oftentimes we equate our fitness with what we look like on the outside, but it's absolutely not necessarily true. And I can remember that my surgeon even said going into surgery and afterwards, I didn't have very many issues, and he just noticed some things, and he's like, well, it's because you're a very fit individual. But you don't think that, right? You equate a size and a shape with, well, I'm fit and I'm trim and I'm lean and I'm this and I'm strong. No, no, no. We all can be strong. We all can be fit and be battling the disease of obesity and carrying excess weight, right? So those two things we can separate them,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. So I say this to a lot of people. I'm 2 years post-op going into year number 3, and I am still over 200 pounds. Right. And a lot of people think that in the bariatric community, like, oh my God, it didn't work for her. No, that's not the case. Like, no. First of all, my doctor's like, if you would have been two, right now, I think I'm at 211 or 207 or something. She's like, 215, you're good. She said, because it doesn't matter what the size on the scale necessarily says, everybody's body is different. And in the bariatric community, that's the one thing, unfortunately, that I hate, right? You do not have to be a skinny mini, like, in order to be successful at bariatric surgery. I'm like, how much more movement do I have now as a result of bariatric surgery? How do I feel every single day when I get up? Like, those are the markers that I think people really need to look at versus what you look like in the mirror or versus what size jeans you wear. I mean, that's just me. Let me get off my soapbox about it. But like, the number on the scale just is like,
Well, it's hard, and especially I find from the people that I talk to on a routinely basis, just throughout the social media, figuring out that it for women the measuring stick is Wonderland. Like if you don't hit Wonderland, then it must not work for you, or oh, you're just trying to get good job trying to get to Wonderland. Like, well, that's not everybody's goal. Like if I can go at 215 and my labs are good and I'm metabolically well, guess what? I won. I hit the goal. My goal is to be metabolically well, not the number on the scale, not BMI chart, not anything else. Like if I can go get my labs drawn and I'm good and can get taken off medication, like that's the goal. So it really is hard for the difference that I see between men and women. Like men are just judged different. Like we're just like, if we drop some weight, we're like, hey, cool, good job, man. Like, good to see you out there working on it. And I'm like, yeah, thanks, man. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm trying, And it's just like, hey, cool. No, you're out there doing it though. And that's what matters. Like, and you just don't see the same thing on the side for females. And that sucks. Like, it's hard for me to watch because I've always been a huge advocate, like as being one of the first, like one of the few males that were speaking out about it when I started speaking out about having my surgery and being vocal about it. Like it was predominantly, which is amazing, this was a woman's area, which is fantastic. Like I love to see the women succeed. I love to see them do their thing. Like they know I'm very supportive of all of them. But to see this stark difference in the way that the treatment goes, like I was on a live earlier and people were talking about how like work has been different when they started losing weight. Like they're getting treated different because they look different. And that to me, I was just like, they were like, has that happened to you? And I'm like, no. I was like, it sucks. Like, I'm glad it hadn't happened to me, but I wish it hadn't happened to you too. Like, it shouldn't happen that way. Like, everything about that changes. And it's crazy how different it's viewed. But sorry, I got on my soapbox for a minute, but it's just different in the way it goes. And it really sucks that because the scale is predominantly how people measure their success, and it really shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, and when it comes to movement, I think people also get worried about, well, if I start working out more, if I start doing hardcore resistance training, or if I start whatever this is, am I going to gain weight, right? I'm going to gain muscle, and muscle weighs more than fat. And oh my gosh, then the scale is going to go in the opposite direction. And a lot of times we can do a lot of mental math about like, well, what's the right amount of movement or exercise so that I can be healthy and lose more weight without adding more weight, right? And what we always talk about in BariNation is that, movement it's one of our pillars of success. So we have 4 pillars of bariatric success: movement, mindset, metabolic wellness, and community. And we chose the word movement for a reason, because a lot of times exercise can connotate something negative in our past, right? We would exercise to punish ourselves for food decisions that we made, or we exercise because we thought we had to, right? Or so-and-so did it, so I need to do this too. It was not something joyful for us. And exercise sometimes in our brains connotates something very rigid, very like, nope, I'm going to follow this program or do this or do that, which is fine if that's what you like. But again, it can take our mindset in a direction that's not helpful. So in BariNation, we often talk about movement. And movement is any intentional movement above and beyond what is normal for our daily life. And what's powerful about movement in this context is that it's movement that is available to you today, not movement that maybe you could do before surgery, not movement that you hope you can do one day after surgery, but movement that is accessible for you right here and now. So if you have bad joints or you're struggling with some limited mobility issues, that actually doesn't really matter. What matters is that you are intentionally doing something above and beyond, right, for your metabolic health that is accessible for you today. And when we think about movement in that context, it frees us up to get creative and to think about movement as a way for us to bring more joy into our life, to help us be metabolically well. But it also gives us permission to separate kind of movement from our weight. Because the other thing that we say oftentimes in BariNation, right? Fitness happens at the gym. Weight loss happens in the kitchen. We are not going to work out all of the calories that we consume necessarily, right? So we're not going to work our way thin. But we are going to move ourselves into healthier mindsets, stronger bones, strong muscles, right? We're going to move out some of those endorphins. We're going to do some really great things with movement, but it's not necessarily tied specifically to our weight, which I think is why this conversation is so important. Movement is just something we have to do in our lives almost every day if we want to really find that goal of what Jason was talking about, being metabolically well.
Well, and it also a big thing for that as well is, we talk about it in BariNation all the time, meeting yourself where you're at. That's why this is so important when when April's talking about the type of movement. It doesn't mean you have to go out tomorrow and get a gym membership and go 7 days a week like The Rock and, put chains on your barbells and really work until, all that stuff. If that's what you want to do, high five to you. Cool. Let's do that. We'll support you either way. But meeting yourself where you're at is extremely important in just getting started, because that's the biggest thing we hear people talk about is how do I get started? Because so many people get so nervous about going to the gym. Like, gym intimidation is a real thing. We support that as well. But it really, like, taking it upon yourself to do a lot of research before you even start is going to be huge in terms of meeting yourself where you're at.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think that's the number one question that I get from people all the time is like, how do I get started? Like, Monique, I want to work out. My doctor says I need to work out. I know I need to work out, but I'm exhausted. But I have kids, but I have this, but I have that. And the number one thing I tell people, number one, you got to get your mind right, right? You've got to be in the mental space to say, hey, I know I've got to do this for me. I'm not doing it for my mama, for my dad, and not for anybody else. Yes, I want to be healthy for my kid, but at the end of the day, I need to do it for me. And just to know that you are valuable and you are worth getting healthy for is the number one thing that I tell people all the time, right? So mindset, check. The number two thing is like, do something that's fun, right? So like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm the type of person that I will watch YouTube all up and down and I will watch all the videos, right? And I'll watch them. I won't do them, but I'll watch them, right? And I'll be like, that looks a little too hard. That kind of look fun. That look whatever. Because I want to make sure that I'm having a good time in my workout. And for reals, if it looks too hard, I'm not going to do it, right? We all know that we've been there. We've been to a class and then somebody's like, lift that 30-pound dumbbell. And you're like, you want me to lift? Nah, no. And if you do it, you know that you're going to be hurt afterwards, right? So then you're like regretting it going into it. So it's like, do something that's fun, right? Do something that you're going to get enjoyment about. And the third thing, dude, give yourself grace. I dance around my kitchen for 15 minutes because I get 2 15-minute breaks a day because I work at home. And that checks the 30-minute mark, especially when it's cold outside and I don't want to go outside, or let's say I don't want to get on my Peloton today. Like I'm just not feeling a Peloton day, but I know I've got to get in 30 minutes of movement. 2 15-minute dance workouts, like to Alexa. I'm like, Alexa, turn on Beyonce, move for 15 minutes. And dude, that's it, right? I'm checking the boxes. It's like giving yourself grace to do the things that are fun for you. It doesn't have to be something that like you're gonna necessarily be like hardcore, Sylvester Stallone. Again, if you like that, girl, you like it, I love it. But it's like, give yourself grace to do the things that are fun, that are going to be good to your body.
Yep. We say it all the time. We're still like a broken record in BariNation, but space and grace is our bread and butter for a lot of reasons. And exactly what you just described is kind of what space and grace is all about. Sometimes we need to get some space away from the things we are telling ourselves about movement. We need to really push back and go, is that true? Do I really not have time to move today? Or can I really not move in one specific way today? Really, is that true? And then what am I really thinking about movement? What am I telling myself about movement? Am I thinking movement is punishment? Am I thinking I can't do it? Am I thinking, right? What limiting belief am I really repeating up here that is stopping me from actually moving, right? Because our thoughts impact our beliefs, and our beliefs are what drive the actions that we take. So if you're thinking movement is not something that you can do, your belief is that I'm never going to be able to move, and you will never take action towards movement. So it really does have to start with your mindset. And just like what you said, movement is movement is movement. There is no magical number that needs to be associated with how long you move, how often you move throughout your day, right? I mean, if you do 30 seconds of movement throughout your day, you are going to add up to a bigger chunk of time where you are doing something intentional. But it's all these things that we think about movement in our head or in our hearts that really kind of prevent us from doing it. So,
and there's nothing saying that you can't start out dancing in your kitchen and move up to the 30-pound dumbbell. Like those things happen. Like that, your workout is not going to be static forever. Like you're going to start somewhere and you're going to use it as a building block to start doing other things, more things. Your body's going to start calling for more movement. You'll get curious and start, like Monique said, you'll start looking stuff up on YouTube and trying to figure out what the next progression is. And next thing you know, you may be looking like a Rocky montage working out in a barn somewhere, doing leg lifts and lifting people up in carriages. You don't know what's going to happen. But the fact of the matter is like eventually you can work your way up to anything you want to do. And if you want to stay dancing in your kitchen, it's still movement. It's up to you. It doesn't have to look like one thing or another.
The thing that has been really inspiring for me recently is, so I've got 2 words of the year, kind of. When I look at all of the pillars, when I look at our 4 pillars of bariatric success, movement is a pillar that I was having the most difficult time kind of living every single day. And I just got tired of telling myself, well, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to do that tomorrow, because I was realizing not moving was impacting my life in negative ways. It was impacting my mental health. It was just impacting the strength that I was not feeling in my life, right? It just was like, nope, okay. If I say this is important, I have to do this. All the other facets are going good. I go to BariNation groups. My eating is pretty dialed in, and I feel like I'm focused on my mindset. I'm making good progress there. And at the end of last year, I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm done with this. I'm done talking myself out of it. This is just bullshit. Like time, like put up or shut up, right? Like, and my word for this year overall is persist. I have to persist towards my goals no matter what. I have to stop talking myself out of it. And instead of me thinking about movement as a routine that I was trying to get into, I stumbled across this article about the power of building practices over routines. And the quick difference is a routine is something that you do, right? So when this happens in the day, this is the next thing, right? It's an if then, right? So when I do this, then I do this, then I do this. Well, the problem with that is if one part of your routine gets thrown off, your whole routine can kind of go out the window and then you just don't do it. That was not working for me because I was giving myself all the excuses in the world to, not move. And I was like, yeah, I need to outsmart myself here. But a practice builds in flexibility, right? When you practice something, you're saying it doesn't necessarily matter when or how or what this looks like. What matters is that it happens in that day. So when I really embraced this idea of practice and I looked at my schedule and I was like, okay, there are 3 opportunities to move here. I'm going to write in move at those 3 times. And one of those times I'm going to do it. I'm going to move. So yesterday was my 14th consecutive day moving. And after spending the night, thank you. I'm very proud of that. That hasn't happened in a very long time, according to my Peloton app. So Saturday night, I went to a friend's house, overindulged, drank way too much, right? Spent the night at their house. We had tacos and margaritas and we woke up the next day, a little bit hungover, and slow rolled my way home. Got home around 3. I was watching the football games, laying on the couch, and I was like, oh, all day when I got home, I was telling myself, I don't feel like moving. I don't feel like moving. I need a rest day. I need this. I need this. I need this. And then at 8:30 at night, after the football game is wrapped up, I asked myself, so is today the day that you're going to break your movement streak? Is today the day? Is today the day that you're not going to persist and you're not going to practice? Like, did I lose my leg at my friend's house? No, I didn't, right? Like, could I go walk? Could I go walk for 15 minutes? Can I give myself permission for 15 minutes? And my answer to myself was, no, today is not the day that I'm going to break that streak. So I went upstairs, I got on my treadmill, I committed to 15 minutes and I did my 30, right? Now I wasn't feeling great. It's not like I was hardcore power walking or anything. I walked. Walking is movement. And I practice movement even on a day that before I would have talked myself out of. And I think maybe what's different this time is it is the mindset piece, but I have also made room in my life for movement because I say no to other things until I've said yes to movement. And most days that is what happens. Or most days I have to promise myself, okay, you're doing these things, but you can only do these things if you are moving later on tonight. It has to be one of those if-then equations for me. Because I'm really starting to realize I was purposely cluttering my life with other things to make it appear like, well, I don't have time to move, or I'm too busy, or oh my gosh, or my knee's kind of hurting. And no. It really has taken me just asking myself those very simple that very simple question: is today the day? Is today the day that I'm going to break that streak? And no, the answer has to be no. And I'm really starting to understand that's how I live that pillar. That's how I make room in my life for movement. And if I say it is important to me, the only way that it actually becomes important is if I do it.
Yeah. Well, the power of persuasion and how strong our minds are never really factored into me until the kind of mental clarity of the post-op journey, because that's when you realize like you could legitimately sell a glass of water to a drowning man when it comes to telling yourself what you are and can or can't do. Like, people don't realize that your body will, like your mind will give up way before your body will. Like, because it will just legitimately trick you into believing like you don't have anything left in the tank when you really could go so much farther and do so much more. And we are the masters of getting ourselves to talk ourselves out of it because doing nothing's so much easier than doing something.
So true. So true. As a fitness instructor, I think people think, oh my God, Monique, you work out all the time. No, that is not
You're
the
so
case.
motivated to do all the things.
She's doing all the things. Monique is with the kettle. No, when you teach fitness, and I don't care what anybody says, I am instructing people, right, to do fitness. But at the end of the day, I still need to do my own practice, right? Like April said, like I've still got to be in my own practice. And as I've now gotten into this stage of the game and my bariatric journey, what I've learned is that my practice for fitness needs to be gentler, right? And I need to be kinder to myself because I'm throwing kettlebells and I'm running and I'm doing all the things. But now my premenopause body has said, hey, girl, like, hey, girl, like, slow down just a little bit, right? And I've got to be okay with that. And I notice that on the days when I take the mindful walk, right? When I'm outside and I'm walking my dog because work is atrocious, right? Everything else business wise is crazy. When I take those mindful meditation walks, it's like, yes. And I feel at peace. And I'm like, not only is my mind now being clear, but I've also gotten in that movement piece. And I'm like, dude, I feel good. And it's at those moments that I'm like, oh, this is that head heart connection situation that people are talking about. And I'm almost like, wow, I think I'm hitting a nirvana right now. Like, I think I'm in that oh type place because it's like I've gotten in the movement, my mind is clear, and now I'm ready to go and slay the day. And I hear so many people saying, like, I want to know, how do I get there? Well, be gentle, right? Be gentle to yourself. And so many people find that so hard. And I mean, it took me 44 years to get here to this point, right? And I honestly, I equate like having bariatric surgery as a part of me being able to get there. Because if you would have told me, 5 years ago that I would be the person that be doing mindful meditation walks, I'd be like, get out of here. That ain't me. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not that person. Like, we gonna get out here, we gonna run it, no. Like, my mind needs to be clear and focused now. And I'm just so thankful to be able to like be at this point. But it's like you gotta find the thing that really like does it for you. And it doesn't have to be that hard and that strenuous all the time.
When you were talking, I literally could hear the things I used to tell myself about yoga before I started practicing it, right? Or just about all the things. It's like, well, if you're not sweating and if you're not in pain and if you're not, then that doesn't count. And if you can't do it at that high level, then there's no point in moving at all, which is absolute bullshit. It is not true in any sense of the word. But it's one of those mindsets that keeps us stuck or paralyzed when it comes to actually onboarding intentional movement in our life. But you're so right. It's not something hardcore. It doesn't have to be. And if you are just looking to start a practice of movement, the simpler, the better, right? Really, the gentler, the better.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
you don't just wake up and run hardcore into a wall. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. But yet that's what we're thinking in our brain when it comes to movement.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hear people all like, I just had bariatric surgery 3 weeks ago, and now I'm gonna get, and I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, like, hold on, because if you overdo it, then you will end up hating movement, right? And that's just the number one thing. Like, my doctor told me, like, hey, I know it's killing you not to move, but like, you just had surgery. So calm down, sit down, do something gentle. And I think that was the first time that I really took up like cycling, because I didn't think I was like a cycler. Being overweight, like my stomach would be hitting all types of things, right? And I was just like, this is not comfortable for me. Like, I was just, no, I tried yoga, I tried hot yoga, and not to be whatever, but as a Black woman, hot yoga, let me just tell you, it doesn't mix the hair situation. So I was like, no, honey, that's not going to work. Right. So I was like, I have to find something that works for me. And that's when I really fell in love with walking. Like, after I had surgery, because I wasn't a walker, I was a runner. I was used to pounding the pavement, to get it in, to be like whatever. But after surgery is when I fell in love with it. And I was like, wow, walking is great. Walking is good for you. You can still burn a lot in walking. And like Jason said, like, as the progression now during my journey, now I've learned about, strength training and what kettlebells, and that's why I created the Hottie Hit kettlebell workout, because I hear all the time, like, oh, I don't want to do strength training because I'm going to get bulky and I don't want to look like He-Man. And I'm like, no, you need some versatility when it comes to your workouts. Yes, you can walk. Yes, you can do cardio, but you still need the strength training at least 2 to 3 days a week, in order to really get in that good heart health.
We had a Oh, sorry, Jason. I'll just say there are 2 podcast episodes if you want to learn more about what we exactly talked about. We just recorded recently with Dr. Pesta and Dr. McMahon about the power of walking. Absolutely go listen or watch to that one. And the other one just went in and out of my brain. I believe it's the one that we've done with Dr. Matt Weiner, where he talks about why resistance training after bariatric surgery, when you are ready for that, is so important. And it's related to overall health. It's related to protein and muscle mass. Why it's so important to maintain some muscle on our frame. So a fabulous podcast episode, but there are legit reasons for eventually incorporating some type of strength training or resistance training. But we're not talking about 50-pound dumbbells. We're talking about even your body weight, using your body weight for.
Yeah. Well, and something too that a lot of people don't realize, like when you were talking about, Monique, when you talked about the bulkiness part, because that's what we do here a lot, is that, the biggest fear for people who lose, massive amounts of weight like that is loose skin. And people don't realize that if you replace the fat that's lost with muscle, it's less loose skin you're likely to have on your body. So you're actually trading one for the other. So it's not necessarily that you're out there trying to win Mrs. Olympia, but at the same time, you just want to, it just helps to have it, and it helps build, there's lots of benefits to it. But, you had mentioned something about, now that you're, starting to, get older and realize you're premenopausal and things like that, like your body is changing. And that's what happens as we age. And we have to realize that listening to our body at that point is most important and very imperative, because you can hurt yourself if you don't. Like, there's no reason to push yourself beyond a limit that your body just can't do. And, there's a difference in you just trying to tell yourself you can't do it and actually knowing that there's a nagging ache, pain, pinching, something feels stressed or strained, and you're still trying to work through it to be like, oh, I ain't no bitch, I'm just going to keep going. Like, no, this is different. You're going to actually hurt yourself, and you're going to be wound up for a lot longer than you could have been had you just slowed down and listened to yourself. But incorporating the movement is one of the biggest, most important times to listen to your body, to make sure that you're doing it in the healthiest way possible.
Absolutely. Well, Monique, we've talked about a lot in this episode. You dropped some nuggets there. But when you think about helping people make room for movement in their lives, what's maybe the one big takeaway, or what's the thing that you really want people to know about how they can go about making room for movement in their lives?
Yeah. So the one big takeaway and how I personally feel that, you can make room is when you make it fun, right? When you make movement fun, then you're more inclined to do it, right? So I know if it's a day, if I'm having a bad day and it's stressful and I know that I'm getting ready to have fitness, it's the fun part of my day, right? So that's one thing that definitely I do. And then like you, April, I schedule it out, right? So I'm a big schedule lister type person. I'm not necessarily a type A, but if it's on the calendar, then I want to be able to check the box. So I'm making sure that I'm writing in my calendar what fitness I'm going to do, what day. And then I make sure that I have an accountability partner, Melanie from BariNation. I love her. She has me on this whole Apple Watch situation. And I'm telling you, damn it, she closes those rings every day around like 1 o'clock. And I'm like, well, damn it, she didn't got the rings closed. So let me get up, right? Or either she'll like text me and be like, okay, so like what's happening today? what's going on? And I don't care what time it is. I'm like, well, let me put my shoes on. So really making sure that like I have that accountability, that friend that that's just one of the ways that I'm able to say, like, okay, I'm making room because it's something that I'm not doing just for me. Like, I'm doing it as a collective, as the community.
Yeah.
So it makes a world of difference. And then, like, I just want to leave people with the last thing is give yourself grace, right? When it comes to fitness, no matter what it looks like, do not compare your fitness to anybody else's fitness, because I know I did that for a long time. Even as a fitness instructor getting in the game, I was like, oh, you know what? This person is doing that. This person is doing that. No, I do my own thing. So if you ever take my class, 4 basic moves, right? No more than 4, because I don't want it to be hard. Like, it doesn't have to always be hard. And I want it to be fun. And I'm like, if I think it's fun, hey, cool, we're going to do it, right? Just don't compare yourself to anybody else.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Those are amazing insights. And I know people are going to leave this conversation a little bit more inspired to really think about how they can make room in their lives for movement. Like we said, it's one of our pillars of bariatric success. It's something we're all striving to do. And what you have offered is very tangible for any bariatric patient, no matter what stage you are in. And if you'd like to continue to learn from Monique, there are several ways to do so. She's actually an expert in the BariNation support community, and she leads these phenomenal, they're almost like happy hours, but it's focused on movement. And the thing that we really appreciate about it, it's not necessarily instruction on how to move, but it is that accountability space. It's that safe place for you to come and better understand what movement looks like in your life, how it can be fun, connect with other people that are wanting to make movement a part of their lives. It's a safe place for you to really begin, right? To expand a little bit, to make a little bit of room in your life for movement, because the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, the more your mindset is going to shift, and the more inclined you are going to be to move just by spending time with people who are also making it important in your lives. So you can join the BariNation support community, and you can join Monique at her meetups. But Monique, you also offer fitness classes, right?
Yes, I do. So if you follow us, social media, all the things, all the channels, the Thick Chicks, right? The double X's. We have free fitness on TikTok. We have free fitness on our YouTube page. And we also now have discounted fitness for $3. Drop in $3 drop in classes, virtual fitness on My Fitness Pro every Tuesday, Thursday, and I believe Saturdays. Join us, because we never want money to be an issue when it comes to fitness. I've been there, single mom, could not afford Pampers. And I was like, I never want any person to ever feel that, money is an issue. So come join us. More than just fitness as well. We do things like mindset, motivation, and it's just an awesome community of people that gather together just to do fitness together.
Freaking rad. We will make sure that all of the links are included in the show notes so you can get to know Monique more on all of the platforms. And of course, we would love to see you and welcome you into the BariNation support community. It's where we are finding the support that we need as patients, really for every stage of our journey. So we'd love to see you there. Monique, thank you so much for joining us. This has been amazing. Amazing.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yeah. Jason, my friend, you want to take us out?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Monique, it's been a pleasure getting to speak with you today. To the community at large, thank you guys so much for all the work you've done in liking, sharing, and subscribing the podcast, and in all the platforms, the players, the YouTube channel, and all the things. You guys are helping us grow. We appreciate that so much. And better yet, you're helping people that need the help find the help, and that's most important. And just remember, at the end of the day, you've got this, we've got you, and we'll see you next time.
Awesome. Thanks, friends.
Bye, everybody.